All right, let's call to order the regular council meeting for the town of St. Andrews on Monday, May 6th, 2024 at 7 p.m. And we are going to be obviously live in person here at the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex, but also streaming through Zoom and Facebook. If anyone has any questions regarding anything to do with tonight's agenda, any questions for question period, you can do so by emailing pnopper@townofstanders.ca. And anyone that is on Zoom, we'll also do a round of questioning at the end. All right, let's get in to the recording of attendance. This is our third meeting this evening. The first two are quick. All members of council are here with the exception of Councillor Gumashal. And I do want to recognize that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Peskotomuhkati people. The approval of the agenda, there is a number of items here. I don't think there was any amendments that came to me beforehand this evening, so I'll be asking for a mover for the agenda. I've got Councillor Bennett, seconded by Councillor Blanchard. Any changes, additions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. That's been carried. And now we're in the disclosure of conflict of interest. Okay, seeing none, if anything does arise this evening, just let me know and we'll pause it to give you an opportunity to leave. Presentations, we are in for an exciting round. We have the battle of the planners. We have both Mr. Gopen and Mr. Henderson presenting tonight. And they thought it would be good to set the momentum by Mr. Alexander Gopen, Senior Planner, to present on Amendment MP 20-09 to Municipal Plan MP 20-01 and Z 22-08 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01, otherwise known as Charlie Bartlett, PID 15156425. Over to you.
That was quite the introduction, Your Worship. Thank you. Just want to make sure the presentation's going to work.
Just give a moment here to make sure we're live. No, that'll be the fifth time. Come on. We're good to go? Okay. I don't think we have to redo the beginning because it is really, there's been nothing other than the approval of the agenda. Go ahead, Mr. Gopen, the floor is yours.
So it's not showing up. Okay. So you'll just have to click. Oh, it'll just if the presentation's open, it'll just click through. Like it doesn't actually come up with a USB thing. Yeah, did Paul send you the presentation? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I'm good. As long as you just start the presentation.
All good.
All this technology making life so much more efficient. I will say this is the public presentation for the amendment to the municipal plan MP 20-09. There is a zoning bylaw amendment Z 2208 that is part of it, but technically this public presentation is just on the municipal plan, but I will discuss the entire project since it's all related. Could you just start the presentation, Mr. Spear? Is that possible? Change it to presenting mode. You got it from beginning there, yeah. All right. So this is PID 15156425. Not too far from here, just up the road next to the Tim Hortons. It's a 0.53 acre lot. It's currently in the serviced residential zone. There's a 1.5 story, 1,000 square foot approximate barn on it. It's the smaller barn next to the bigger barn that is this property. The bigger barn is a separate property. So the proposal is a retail fishmonger in the existing barn. And it's from Charlie Bartlett. This would be an allowed use in the central commercial zone. In that zone, 4 parking spaces would be required, as would paving of the parking and driveway area. and there would be a probably slight rear yard setback variance that would be required. It's the same property owner who owns that adjacent property, so it's likely that would be not much of an issue at all. But I do want council to be aware of it. It requires a municipal plan amendment and rezoning, which is we're technically discussing the municipal plan aspect of it. So there's the property there, as I said, next to, oh, that totally fades away. Now I remember this happening in PAC last time. But you can see the red outline, and it's next to two other central commercial properties. The property is currently owned by Christopher Gowen, and I guess it's kind of used for sort of a gravel place where people go get gravel, some landscaping stuff, but mostly vacant. The aerial shot, and it's kind of used contiguously with the property behind it, but it is a separate property, and this use would only be occurring on that specific PID. Just a few more shots, and then this is provided by the applicant. This is kind of their concept for sign and what the building would look like. Might not be totally finalized yet, but that's a basic idea of what they're going for, as well as a proposed site plan. So parking area, you can see some landscaping and a few picnic tables. So this I guess not that new anymore, but the statements of public interest. This is a regulation under the Community Planning Act that all planning decisions have to conform with. One of those is to promote and prioritize development in areas of communities with existing or planned public infrastructure and services. And this is in a location with existing services, so it checks that box. In terms of the municipal plan, there's multiple policies that I think are worth looking at. There's one around year-round employment and economic growth opportunities. So this rezoning will support the diversification of retail offerings. You can get fish in St. Andrews, but there's no dedicated fishmonger. There have been in the past, but currently there are none. And obviously fishing, very culturally significant in St. Andrews and the surrounding area. There's also an economic policy about encouraging new businesses to be in the central commercial area. And this is, I think, outside of the central commercial area, but it's still a very walkable location. It's adjacent to other commercial properties. And St. Andrews is not in a situation where you have tons of vacant storefronts and you really want to make sure that downtown gets activated because, as we know, with summer coming, it's very active already. And this policy relates to that as well. It talks about linear or ribbon commercial development, discouraging strip malls. Basically, as someone from St. Stephen, I will say that the top of King Street, that is what we are talking about and what we want to avoid, that type of development. So I think it's possible to have a development that is not in the central commercial or in the historic business district, but is not contributing to that pattern of development. You don't really see it now here, and I think it's possible to continue that. So yes, there is some commercial uses there. You've got the Algonquin across the street, and it's a gateway into town as well. So there is an opportunity with this to improve it aesthetically and maybe make it look a little bit more pleasing. Because right now it's, there's kind of some old trucks there and a boat every once in a while. And this is relating to the pedestrian realm. And I think that's really important to make sure that this is not going to become that really car-oriented type of development, even though, you definitely want people to be able to park there and drive there. So there is a municipal plan policy about developers contributing utility costs, and there's no sidewalk going there currently. We have discussed with town staff, is it feasible to have a sidewalk there? There may be some challenges. So how feasible this ultimately is, I'm not, from an infrastructure point of view, I'm not entirely sure, but definitely something to keep in mind. So, as I said before, you do have fish being sold and served in St. Andrews. It's a very, very popular thing. And I bring that up for two reasons. One, to say like this is, very important to the area, but also it's kind of to counter some of the concerns that there may be around storage of seafood and processing of seafood, because once you get into larger scale operations, whether those probably don't belong in a central commercial area, whether those belong in, is that light industry? That's, I think, outside the concerns of this discussion, because this is clearly just a retail use that would not be any different from the ones that are currently existing in town, much more centrally located, that aren't causing issues for people. So would this impact the historic business district? As I brought up, you really don't have a lot of vacant stores in that area, and you have existing parking and loading challenges. So a store like this that would have, while you do want it to be pedestrian oriented, there are definitely going to be people driving there. There'll have to be some deliveries. So to have that not right downtown could actually be a positive thing. There's that opportunity to beautify the area and increase some of the active transportation connections there. You got a sidewalk going almost there, and then it goes on the other side of the 127, but not on the golf course side. One question that's come up before, which is a good question from council, is if we rezone this, what other uses could be allowed there? So this would, the recommendation is to go to the central commercial zone. And in my view, my opinion, there really any of those uses that are allowed by right would be appropriate in that area. And you've got two properties next to it that could do that right now. There are some uses subject to terms and conditions, like a gas station. So that would have an extra layer if that was a desire change of use in the future. But retail and things like that, the types of things you would find downtown, in my opinion, they would be appropriate in this part of town as well. Council can set conditions as part of the process. You could have development agreements, which in this case, I think probably not required, but you could set conditions by resolution, which is a slightly easier, less complex process. And just based on my review of the proposal, making sure that outdoor garbage bins are sealable and odor proof, just to avoid any spillover impacts. And having a high quality landscaping plan with clear pedestrian paths. If there aren't going to be clear ways to get to the property, at least on the property, there should be clear ways so that pedestrians can access the store. And finally, if a new building is developed on the lot, rather than sort of continuing with having the use kind of in the back of the lot, which does tend to be a little bit more car-oriented, bringing new uses closer to the front of the lot so there's more pedestrian engagement. And there could be other conditions that council would want to add to, but those are the ones in my review that came to me. So that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions. And the applicant is here as well. So if I can't answer them, he may be able to.
Thank you, council. Appreciate that. Mr. Gopen, appreciate the presentation. Council, any questions for either the presenter or the applicant? Councilor Heenan.
Thank you. That was a very good presentation. The only question that didn't get answered for me is a washroom facilities with the picnic tables being there. I see a big run on washrooms at Tim Hortons. And I have a big concern with that because Tim Hortons is managing very hard on their washroom policies right now. And I'm just wondering if that's taken into account.
That's a great question. I believe under building code, if you have a building open to the public, you do have to have washroom facilities, but I would have to double check on that with our building inspectors. And I don't know if the applicant had planned to include washroom facilities, but yeah, I think that's definitely something to look into.
As I say, with Tim Hortons, they're having a very difficult time with people coming into their facility using their washrooms and not buying or purchasing anything. And with the close proximity to this establishment and the picnic tables being there, that encourages people to stay, thus bathroom breaks.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Gopen will follow back up with us after he's had a chance to review the building code on that.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, not seeing any. Final call. All right, there is a motion coming up here momentarily under introduction, consideration, and passing of bylaws. So it's the first item actually under motions. We'll move ahead to his colleague, Mr. Alex Henderson, who's the Director of Planning. He's doing a presentation on amendments to MP 20-0203 to the secondary municipal plan, MP 20-02 and Z 22-09 to the zoning bylaws Z 22-01 for PIDs 15164718 and 01324284 or 742039 NB Limited. That's a lot of numbers. Welcome, Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, Council. I'm just going to share my screen here. Paul, there we go. I just have screen share disabled on my end here.
Bear with us 1 second. We're just going to close our screen share so you can.
Oh, let's try that again.
Go ahead, Alex.
There we go. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so this is two bylaws that are presented here tonight. One is a secondary municipal plan amendment, and one is a rezoning. This is proposed by the owner of the Algonquin Resorts. Background. So the owner of the Algonquin is requesting a secondary municipal plan amendment and rezoning of a portion of their resort campus. So two different, a portion of a PID and one whole PID. So the rezoning would be from tourist commercial, the TC zone, to the integrated development ID zone. And it's to carry out special purpose development on two areas of land that are part of the resort campus. The development would otherwise not fit within the TC zone and wouldn't conform with the height massing requirements of the secondary municipal plan. So there's two parts to this proposal. The first is a piece of property that's adjacent to the hotel north of Prince of Wales Street and adjacent to the provincial historic site Fort Tipperary. The proposal here is to develop a 14,000 square foot spa, two-story, that would be attached to the hotel by way of an above ground walkway. The spa is planned to be available to guests of the hotel as well as to the general public. So here's looking at the site, kind of northwest, and Fort Tipperary would be in the far background. And you can see the edge of the hotel existing there right now at Adolphus Street here and Prince of Wales Street. And this is what the applicant is proposing. They're proposing a building, a two-story building attached by the walkway with a courtyard out front that would host some of the spa's outdoor facilities, as well as the building hosting the spa's indoor facilities. So this building is going to be built out of wooden clapboard, and it evokes a style of the building that originally was the building materials for the Algonquin before the modern stucco treatment. So another view of the spa exterior. Here we're looking at a proposed site plan for the spa. So you can see the courtyard and the way the building is oriented, it follows the direction of the current hotel and the way it curves northwest. So leading away from Fort Tipperary. This is more of a overview, looking at it in context. And here is the current building footprints around the proposed location. And that grayed out area is the proposed parcel to rezone. So the second part is a proposed employee housing. So this proposal would include replacing a local historic site, the 1917 O'Brien House dormitory, with modernized employee housing. This would be an 18,000 square foot, three-story multi-unit building, providing 20 homes to staff at the Algonquin Resort. So here's a picture of the current state of the O'Brien House. So it's in a abandoned status and in not good condition. So the owner would be looking to replace this structure. And they're looking to replace it with a townhouse style with apartments below. So we're talking 10 townhouses of 2 to 3 bedrooms and 10 apartments on the ground floor facing south. And as you can see, the building kind of evokes some of the styles of the O'Brien House, the curvature of the roof. So they follow some of the arches. And of course, it's not in the Tudor Revival style, but there is some architectural similarities that they're trying to go for here. So it's looking at a site plan, proposed parking. So this would be the ground floor apartments. And this is looking at a cut through, looking at the different levels. So the townhouses that are on Carlton Street would be 2 level, and the apartments around the rear would be 1 level. And here's looking at the current footprint of the O'Brien House and some of the footprints around. And so this is important here, looking at the proposed bylaw changes. So as we talked about, the TC zone doesn't permit employee housing, nor does it permit use of land or building for spas. So there is a necessary rezoning here, but because no zone exists for this purpose, council can choose to rezone lands for the ID zone, the integrated development zone. It's kind of like a make your own zone with special rules for that particular development. And those special rules are established by way of a resolution. And that happens at the end of the process by the time you get to 3rd reading. So the proposal for the resolution could change. Now, the secondary municipal plan requires that new building heights and footprints in the town plat are one of the following, and it limits it to just these 3. So you can have a building height footprint that's identical to a main residential building or structure on the same block, an average of the main residential buildings on the same block, or within a 10% tolerance of the average of main residential buildings on the same block. Keep in mind that that's all referring to residential. So if we're looking at the same block, there'd be no way for someone to rebuild a building in, let's say, next to the Algonquin that connects to the Algonquin that would be the average of or within 10% of residential buildings on their block. So we're missing a category here in the secondary municipal plan, and this proposal has really highlighted it. There needs to be something in addition to these categories for buildings that are of special purpose or commercial nature. This is actually the cover of the manual for the secondary municipal plan, and it shows the building footprints of the town plat and historic business district. And as you can see, there are certain institutional or commercial buildings that are further set back from their neighboring buildings, but they're much larger in footprint than any of the residential buildings that might be on their block. So we're looking at different parts of municipal plan, secondary municipal plan, and even the plan itself has talked about the possibility for residential buildings not detracting from a larger scale institutional building, a building of landmark significance. And the Algonquin Resort certainly counts as a landmark type of building. So we want to make sure that we're not excluding the potential for alterations or new additions to or new buildings of this nature, that we're not limiting just to the current height and footprints of the residential buildings. So a different category is required. And that's what this proposal, when we look at this and we're looking how to accommodate this and bring this to council, we had to look at a bylaw amendment that would facilitate such a development. So on top of those 3 options, we'd add a 4th option. And the 4th option would allow the building height footprint to not be greater than the total height or footprint of any pre-existing main building that's located within a 15-meter horizontal radius and on another lot. Essentially meaning that if you don't have any buildings within close proximity, and we're talking 50 feet, then you are able to build a building according to the zoning bylaw. And we're not going to be limiting you to your height and footprint massing of another building on your block. So this would be large setbacks, but of course it would be a type of setback that would allow for such a landmark style building to be built in the plat still to this day. The second proposal for a bylaw amendment that's required would be an amendment to the zoning, and the zoning amendment here simply is rezoning of those parcels from TC, Tourist Commercial Zone, to the Integrated Development Zone. And it comes with a map that goes along with it, like any bylaw. So those are the parcels that would be rezoned with this bylaw. And in addition, you would probably see in your package a proposal for terms and conditions. Now, and keep in mind that the terms and conditions are necessary to do an integrated development zone. You have to specify what's allowed in it, and you have to specify what are special rules for that particular rezoning. So essentially, no developments are allowed in an integrated development zone unless they're part and parcel of a proposal that council's accepted and is part of a development agreement or a resolution. And they outline all the unique regulations that apply to that specific proposal. So if it's listed in that proposal, then it's allowed. And if it's not listed, it would be something subject to the regular zoning bylaw. So you'll see things in there for definitions for spa, employee housing, because these don't exist as standalone definitions within the zoning bylaw as it is. So we're kind of coming up with custom rules for these sites because we don't have categories to even look at this proposal. So this would allow council to come up with the rules and the definitions to say if we want to do this or not. As well, things like parking requirements and building setbacks. It's an unusual development in the sense that it's part of a campus and there's parking that may be able to be used for some of the guests that use the spa, for example, and they may have to supply some of their own parking for the spa in addition to, so things that are like barrier-free parking spaces. So making sure that the prescriptions on parking suit the proposed development, as well as setbacks. And just looking at this today with the architect, and he had a number of considerations for setbacks. And I think when we go to PAC, if this is to be referred to PAC, we'll look at those list of proposed terms and conditions. And by the time it comes back to council, before your third reading, you will have a really good and solid list that will work, and we'll have something that hopefully produces a very good outcome for development should council approve this. So again, take the resolutions with a sort of grain of salt. They're kind of there for more or less discussion to look at all the pieces of the development that have to be regulated. But the resolution is actually not part of the bylaw. It's just sort of a draft discussion piece. The bylaw is simply those pieces here for the rezoning, sort of introducing the integrated development zone for these sites in particular, and all the rules get sorted out with the resolution or development agreement. Hopefully that's not too confusing, so I can take questions if there are any, but back to you, your worship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Henderson. I appreciate that. I actually do have a couple questions this evening on this presentation. I guess to kick off, I've had the opportunity to meet with Invest Hotels and their management a number of times, and the investment that they are making into the hotel is greatly appreciated. And when you look at projects like these two, I think the merit of both projects have a lot of benefit for our community. We obviously have some housing shortages in our community. I would go as far as to say O'Brien has been almost an unsightly premise in this community for a number of years. So the fact that they are investing in their employees to have a better place to live and to hopefully be able to recruit managers better, it makes a lot of sense. And of course, every unit that they get for their management means that another unit in our community can be open. So everybody benefits from this project. And the other thing is, as far as the spa, I know one of the main goals of it would be to make the hotel a year-round destination. They are a major employer in our community, and everyone knows when the Algonquin is busy, the businesses in our community are busy. So I applaud all of the actions around that. I guess if there was one concern I had, First of all, the O'Brien residence, I do note that the style does blend in. I also see a little bit of Maxwell in it. If you look at the top of Kira and kind of the way that it looks, it does blend in nicely on that. The spa, however, I don't think I have good enough images on those today. The angles that I'm seeing are all the exact same angle almost, and it's like looking at the hotel towards it. If I'm driving up Prince of Wales Street towards Harriet in that direction, I have no idea what this looks like today. If I'm looking square on, like I'm standing by the pool area of the hotel and looking straight on, I really don't have a good indication of what that looks like today. And as long as it's legal activity, what they decide to do to enhance their business, I think that they know it best. But we're also a community right now looking at a heritage bylaw, and the Algonquin is one of the most iconic heritage elements of our community. And this is going right between the Algonquin and Fort Tipperary. So I want to make sure that we get the look and feel this right for our community. It is their land, but in the same sense, it is a heritage property. And I think we, as a mayor and I'm hoping other members of council think that we need a little bit better visuals on that to really show the community what it is. It's my first snapshot of what it is this past week. That would be one question is, can we get better visuals of what this looks like instead of all from the same angle? And then my point B on this would be that we've got to do a hearing of objections no matter what we do, right? So it's 30 days. I was wondering, we have a heritage committee that's already in place for the town. I'd really like to get comment from them. It gives us an opportunity to see what that process looks like, and I respect their views. So maybe in those 30-day period, they could come back in the same time frame, which I think is adequate based on the bylaw that they have proposed anyway, to provide comment. I know it's not officially implemented yet, but I recall that we've done this in the past, so it would be kind of consistent. And those are I guess my two questions: is can we get better images, and B, can we get a comment from the Heritage Board? But again, the merits of both projects, I completely support. They're both good projects for our community. Mr. Henderson, over to you.
Yeah, so your worship, that's a great point. And I would say that at this point, we're looking at the text of the bylaw, and where the terms and conditions are essentially still up for negotiation between council and the developer. We can certainly relay that if that's the will of council, that you'd like to see revised elevations or more detail on the elevations. And we did have conversations ahead of this coming to council to make sure there was some visuals. So I think they worked under the gun to get these ready. So there may be an opportunity for them to look at that and to maybe provide a little bit more detail should it keep going in the process. Again, the resolution, sorry, the renderings are not a part of the bylaw, but if you want to take something that is proposed to you throughout this process and say that's the type of style we're looking for, put that in the terms and conditions, and council can say we want that particular style, then you can make that part of the rezoning. So I would say if you keep going with this process now, referring it to PAC, and also council's will, you could refer to the Heritage Board or Heritage Committee, sorry, and I'll bring this presentation to them, and we can get that feedback from both groups. And when it comes back to council, we'll have a little bit more refined recommendations to council, and hopefully some more refined images from the architect involved.
That would be great. And my questions by no means are attempt to slow down the process. I think that you can get this out before the public, because the point of the hearing of objections is to hear from the public on what they think of it, and how it impacts obviously neighboring properties. I guess my question is say the design that's before us today, should throughout the process the design be changed? I know when you go between first and second and third reading, a large change makes it restart the process. Would the design of the building constitute for restarting the process, or would that be just something that you could make an adjustment to between first and second reading?
No, that's one of the benefits of this type of rezoning. Like I said, the sort of the content of what you're approving is established in your terms and conditions or the development agreement. So it's done development agreement or resolution, and that can happen right at third reading. So you can kind of figure out some of those pieces of what you're going to enforce on this site up until that point. Now, the content in general should more or less stay the same, but some of those details of the development can be sorted out at that time where you actually establish the terms and conditions. So I wouldn't say if they came back with a totally different proposal, would we say it should go back to public hearing? Yes, absolutely. But if you're revising something with the terms and conditions, no, that happens right at the end. So no, I would say as long as we're in the general scope of what they're proposing, it's not becoming something else entirely. Still spa, still employee housing. Then yeah, no, we can continue on through the process. And again, the text of the bylaw is just those sort of introductory statements about this is a new integrated development zone, changing this property to this zone. That doesn't change no matter what. So no, it's very flexible in this process, and that's one of the nice things about these integrated development zones.
Good. I'm pleased to hear that for sure. And I guess I have one more question. Sorry, Council. I'll pass it over to you. But you've got my mind going. So I understand the merit of why they'd want it to look a little different than the hotel. So when people drive by, they're like, it's not just more rooms, it's actually a spa. I can see that from a business perspective. What would the sign regulations be around this since, it's all technically one? Would they get a variance from PAC to put more signs out, kind of like the WC O'Neill Arena complex, or would they be allowed to have more than 3 signs? Because it's quite a business. There's a lot going on to it, and in fairness to them, 3 signs doesn't seem like it's fair for what they have to offer.
So it'd be, yeah, it's a variety of signs that you're allowed in the zoning bylaw, and they would fall under the current zoning bylaw for commercial signage. So yeah, I mean, they're allowed a variety of, a fascia sign, a projecting sign, a flag sign, or a combination thereof. Things like plaques and other items where it's, this way to the pools or this way to the sauna, those types of signs are exempt. But we're talking about if they want a freestanding sign out front, for example, then they'd be subject to the signage regulation. If there was something special council wanted to consider for this for signage, limitation or some flexibility, then that can be written into the terms and conditions of council's approval of the rezoning or not.
Okay, yeah. So I guess my comment on that would be just that we get ahead of it, just because you see a lot of opportunity where businesses get everything approved. They're like, hey, I'm going to put up this big new sign. All of a sudden, it's like, well, that's contrary to the sign bylaw, and they're trying to open. So let's just make sure that whatever the plan is, that we all know it now so we can work towards a resolution so they're not surprised in the, let's call it the last hour before they open. Because I have seen that before in my time in council where it's just the last detail that no one has really looked at too heavily. So if we could get out in front of that with them as well as part of the process, I think it would make it a little bit easy, because I do know that they are hoping to actually begin this project by the end of this year, right? They've got a pretty tight timeline. Sooner rather than later would be better for them, but knowing that it also is a significant building in our community. Council, I've hogged way too much time, but I'm pretty passionate about this. I'm excited about it, but I just want to make sure that I've looked at all angles. Anyone else have any questions? Councilor Hurdle.
Thank you, Your Worship. And Mr. Henderson, this question is for you, and I'm just seeking clarity, and I'm running the risk, obviously, of oversimplifying this as well. But for the employee housing development, my understanding of what you've said so far to this point is that we wouldn't be looking at a residential rezoning, like a mixed-use residential rezoning, because the integrated development rezoning allows us to, for sake of a better word, sidestep a lot of the variance requirements that are going to be coming along with this. So it allows us to move a lot more quickly towards the special purpose that the ID zoning allows us to do. And that, however, also would prevent, on the flip side, a new developer, should the hotel sell in 20 or 30 or 50 years, from doing like a multi-story high-rise there, because they no longer have to abide by the variances, but they have to present that to council at the time, and council would then either approve it or decline it at that point. Is that correct, with the risk of oversimplifying?
No, that's exactly right. So this is basically they're limited to the proposal council's accepted. That's why the language of the terms and conditions got to be pretty specific. And you could see my first attempt there. I'm trying to list all the things that you might want to limit for the said development. So yeah, if this were to sell, then you would have someone who inherits these limitations.
Okay, that's great. And then my second question, I guess, is can anyone then apply for an integrated development zoning for a new development in the community?
Yes, and that's one of those text amendments which council is considering, is to add integrated development zone to its possible zones that it could rezone a property to. And it's within the Community Planning Act. So even if it didn't exist in your bylaw yet, somebody could propose something and we would just create the text amendment allowing for it and then say, council, you want to do this? And yeah, it's one of the options people have. It's a little bit more involved at the front end because we have to get a lot of details of proposal right. And sometimes people can see an analog in the zoning bylaw to what they want to do, say, go to central commercial or go to the MR1 because it works for everything we want to do. And it's just a simpler process to pick a pre-existing zone. But this is when you have a situation where no pre-existing zone works and you got to custom make the rules. A little bit more involved, but definitely something we would advise in this case.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Hurdle. Any other member of council? Okay, thank you very much. There is, again, I guess sending this to a hearing of objections later on in the council package, so we'll revisit it. I have a dry cough. I apologize for that. Let's get into the approval of the previous meetings for the minutes. The first is the minutes of the 240402 regular meeting of council on Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024, 6:30 p.m. Could I have a mover for those minutes? Councilor Heaton. Could I have a seconder for those? Councilor Hurdle. Any changes to those minutes? All in favor of those minutes, please signify by saying aye. Those have been carried. Next one is the minutes of the 240415 regular council meeting on Monday, April 15th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. Once again, I'll be looking for a mover. Councilor Neal, seconded by Councilor Hurdle. Any changes to those minutes? And last time for minutes, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. Both sets of minutes have been approved. We're now going into communications. Okay, pass these down, and we are going to have a staff report from Mr. Spear. So, Mr. Spear, over to you. I'm just going to step and get a drink of water.
My apologies, council. We had this report ready and it didn't get put in the package. So before you is the CAO report for the month of May 2024. Council, with Battlefest only 10 days away and seasonal staff returning to work, summer is in the air and we look forward to all the activities, events that happen this time of year. Under council, in 2023, the province announced Circular Materials, who develop, implement, and support effective and efficient recycling programs across Canada, will be the administrator for the recycling program in New Brunswick. However, they still subcontract the collection to local haulers. To keep it simple, we will continue our current cycle of 3-week solid waste and 1-week recycling for the foreseeable future. In tonight's package is a motion to reduce the solid waste collection cost. After local governance reform, the town's policing was covered under 2 RCMP contracts, one managed from the St. George detachment and another from the St. Stephen detachment. While day-to-day policing services were not affected, there were some administrative issues on reporting that made it more difficult to get crime statistics for the new municipality. Effective April the 1st, the contracts were merged into one municipal policing service agreement that not only allows for better analysis, but there's also an overall savings to the taxpayers. Within the council package tonight is the resignation of Bill Young from the Bayside Port Corporation Board of Directors, who has served since its inception. When the corporation was first formed, the municipalities of St. Andrews, St. George, St. Stephen, and Macadam were all given shares in this private entity. It only represents a fraction of the total shares, but does allow us to have a duly appointed representative. We wish to thank Mr. Young for his service over the last decades in seeing this economic driver moving forward. Also before you is the recommendation to appoint Dave Archambault to replace Mr. Young. Mr. Archambault has worked both on the senior team of Heritage Salmon and then as a partner for A&R CPAs for many years in Charlotte County, and would be a good representative for the municipalities. Most of the CAOs are acquainted with him outside of this appointment. He is also one of the founders of the Woodcarver Show, held annually in St. Andrews. Within the agenda is a motion for the normal Canada Day street and square closures. A new one this year is the closure of Queen Street from Frederick to King Street. There are two sides to this debate, with one being that because we have bouncy councils in the Anglican churchyard, it is safer to close it off for dashing children. On the other side, congestion is very bad on July 1st, and now people on Queen Street will be forced to turn and then head down Montague Street to complete the journey. We are erring on the side of safety, but council may want to talk this out. Administration. Fundy contractors started the Van Horn Trail extension in mid-April, and as of the writing of this report, they have the trail swath opened up by the Champlain subdivision and are currently working on Water Street in and adjacent to Langmaid Park. They're aiming for full completion by the end of July. The washroom building at Indian Point is now fully under construction and should be completed in late June. Staff are looking at alternatives for landscaping and may come back to council for another allotment of funding to complete the project. The auditors are near completion of the 2023 audit, but had to put it aside for the last weeks of April. It will be ready over the next 3 weeks, and despite canceling our second regular meeting this month, or proposing to cancel it, we may ask for a special meeting to do the long presentation by T. Saunders Doyle on the audit, even if it is virtually. Early in the evening, we had a presentation by Alex Henderson on 2 major development proposals by Invest Housing, who are also owners of the Algonquin Resort. One is to replace the O'Brien House, which has fallen into a state of disrepair. The other is to build a spa adjacent to the new wing. Both are exciting opportunities, but require rezoning. The tourist commercial zone in our current bylaw does not align well with the Algonquin and the nature of these initiatives. The CAO has been asked to participate in a working group that will look at fiscal reform, which is phase 2 of local governance reform. We are just starting the process, but have been shown what other provinces have done for it. It should lead to a new funding model without putting additional tax burden on our residents. We'll be moving to the public consultation phase of the municipal plan and zoning bylaw updates for St. Andrews, including Bayside and Shamrock. Starting this month, we plan to have 4 consultation sessions, 1 each in Bayside, Shamrock, and St. Andrews, and then an online session. These sessions will help provide more information for the draft bylaws, which will be available this fall for further community input through the 3 reading process. Services. The wharf is getting ready for the new season as the wharfings are started back full-time today with the finger piers out and washrooms up and running. With the St. Andrews Biological Station's wharf still condemned or under construction, it has put a lot of pressure on ours. We are balancing as best we can, but ask users to be patient with the limited space. We are just about to the end of installing the new meters and updating our software package to begin the transition to consumption billing. As the April billing inserts indicated, we were just about there, but council wanted everyone to be on the same billing system, so it was decided to defer it for another billing cycle. It needs to be noted that for most average homeowners, their semi-annual bill may only drop less than $20, as the bills are a combination of a base charge plus consumption. The most affected will be heavier water users, such as large families, those who fill a pool or routinely water gardens, whose bill will escalate. The manager of recreation has been diligently working on the Canada Day activities and hopes to have the initial schedule available in a few weeks. It'll be available on the town website initially, but keeper copies will be provided closer to the events, which will be held over the entire weekend. Public Works has been busy with spring cleanup, which has been significant after the winter storms. Having the arena crew come over has helped tremendously as they have several internal projects besides their day-to-day work. The grass is growing quickly, and soon a crew will be on the mowers for the season. In fact, they already are. The new limb and tree pickup program seems to be working well. Public Works will stop and pick up brush occasionally when it is put out between the scheduled pickup days. Most homeowners are appreciative of not needing to load it into a vehicle and bring it to the yard. Big Brothers Big Sisters Charlotte County is bringing a new program to the youth center entitled Go Girl, which empowers young women to be entrepreneurs. We are grateful for these partnerships to open opportunities for our youth where they may have thought none existed. Mentoring is a powerful tool and helps ensure our youth are provided guidance in establishing their futures. In conclusion, the success of local government is dependent on the citizens as much as council and staff. It is important that residents provide input as requested so the future of the town aligns with your expectations to be the best community we can be. I continue to encourage everyone to stay informed of the initiatives of your town. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Anything that you'd like to highlight from a financial perspective?
At this point in time, Your Worship, we are showing that we're, because of the winter mainly, we are showing higher than expected surplus with the salt and labor down. But there are some projects that we've talked about in other motions that will probably be over. So I don't expect that extra surplus to last for the entire year.
You know, a little bit, I guess a milder winter, but a little bit phasing as well is what I'd say from that. Council, any other questions related to the financials or staff reports that are contained within the package? Councillor Harland.
Thank you, Mayor Henderson. Mr. Spear, you talked about the garbage pickup, that we're not going to make any changes for the foreseeable future. Just wondering what that means in terms of time frame. I have had a few people reach out to me in Shamcook concerned about the growing bear situation and challenge. One person in particular had contacted DNR, and DNR's recommendation is to keep the garbage inside, not in bins, because the bears have been knocking over the bins. So I do wonder, is that a possibility for us to revisit whether we stay with a 3-week, 1-week cycle, or at the end of the year when the contract comes up again? Or can we revisit this issue to potentially go for garbage collection for 4 weeks of every week?
I guess the contract would kind of limit what the service is, but that being said, I bet you at any given time, we may be able to renegotiate the contract. But that being said, the current providers got the recycling, so probably the staffing is probably already committed to other projects, but I don't know that for a fact.
If I could just
absolutely
go on, the Worship. So we'll actually get to talk sooner because we'll have to put a garbage tender out probably by late summer, early fall, so we can have bids back and included in our budget. So okay, that'll come before you. I would say the bear issue is separate from the garbage collection issue to a certain extent, meaning that it's as much, unless you want to put in the bylaw that people are required certain types of garbage, can only put it out, not certain types of garbage, but only certain types of bins and stuff. That's a little bit harder to manage. We can talk about it. The extra collection, people with bears are still having trouble even when they're getting garbage week after week. I don't think it's exclusive to when you have the missed week. So we can think about it, but I don't know if the garbage collection bylaw is going to be the best avenue unless we require people to make a significant investment to put bins by the roadside, which we're not even allowed in our current zoning bylaw, that would prohibit bears or lower the risk of bears entering it. But we will get a chance over the summer to revisit this early fall.
Okay.
I think the challenge of this one is we're yet to hear the solution that we like. Staff made a recommendation. We didn't, as a whole, like that solution. So I know we keep trying to resolve the issue, but we're not actually coming up with any action to resolve it. So whether we adjust the collection or not, there's something bigger that needs to happen here in order for it to be reversed. But I assume that it's been a longer term problem, but the problem is now the bear population is rising for anyone that spends any time in the woods, and really they're catching on to this easy feed, which is probably another reason why the population's rising. Councillor Ware, I see. Yeah, microphone, please.
Yeah, I'll comment on what's happening in Bayside. We only have a couple dumpsters. One on in Shamcook, number 3, is a total disgrace, I guess. I might as well be point blank. It's terrible to drive by. I know what's happening with the camera. We have game cameras up. Haven't gotten the bears on the game cameras yet. Problem still exists that there is one house within the 400 meters of the dumpster, making it difficult to use firearms to eliminate the problem. We think we have a solution to that in that turns out our garbage collector, Troy Tuddenham, owns the old sawmill that Burl Taylor built. So the bears are traveling right in behind that. In fact, they tried to break into the sawmill when he had blueberries stored there. So there's several of us that are going to participate in an eradication process as soon as bear season opens. But that doesn't solve the problem of contractors dumping over in the vicinity of the dumpster. They're not even trying to get close to it anymore. It's just a public dump alongside the road. And I can certainly bring pictures in if you want to see it, but it's not something to be proud of in town. I did, the suggestion was made, well, it's only a kilometer, they can drag their bins out once a week. I did take my dash cam and go back, not to the last house, but the second last house, and drove out with the dash cam on. And if anybody wants to look at the recording, they'll see how ridiculous that is to pull a dumpster back and forth for an excess of a kilometer, up hills, down hills, and all that type of thing. So we do have a problem with that one. The one on Rankin Road, Gary James is the only one using it that I'm aware of right now. Perhaps his brother is too, but they are they're looking after that one. And the contractors, for some reason, stay away from it. I was tempted to take the sign out of my garage and put on the dumpster that due to the high cost of ammunition, I was going to stop firing a warning shot. But I guess that wouldn't be appropriate. So
Thank you, Councillor Ware. But what I'm hearing, I think it's for the third straight meeting as we talk about it, but we're not coming up with any action. I know that, again, staff had a proposal, and I do get the reasoning behind why it might not have been adequate for everyone. It probably was adequate for some, but not for everyone. So what I'm going to propose is Mr. Spear maybe send an email out to the members of council that would like to get together at town hall, have a discussion on options. Maybe there's some resources of some community that has gone through similar problems and came up with solutions, because this is probably the third time in the last 5 months this conversation's come up and nothing's changing. So we're not going to solve it around this table tonight. We have a big agenda outside of bears, but let's take that away, because if we don't do anything, guess what's going to happen 2 months from now? We're all going to be around this table talking about bears. So there's got to be a solution out there. We're not the only community that lives in a rural area that has garbage removal. It's really not an isolated thing. So Mr. Spear will do a follow-up. I assume that the councillors from the wards will probably want to participate, but that'll be open to anyone that wants to, keeping in mind that if we have quorum, we probably should make it more of a formal town council meeting. So let's do that as a takeaway. Any other questions regarding the go ahead, Councillor Harlan.
Just two quick ones for Mr. Knopper in his report. He mentioned, Mr. Knopper, are you still online?
Yes,
you mentioned that you had 2 peddlers permits, but I don't know what the process is for discussing or approving peddlers permits. Do those come to council, or those just dealt with at the town? office?
Currently in the form of the bylaw, they actually are dealt by myself. It's actually the clerk that gets to make the decision on that, but I would never haven't made a decision on peddler's permits without bringing it before council. I am going to review them. There are a couple of them that are looking at options of somebody basically running an ice cream service, riding up a bike up and down the street. There's also somebody that's looking to operate a secondary, basically farmers market or crafts market. So those are what's being reviewed, but nothing has been brought forward yet to council.
Okay, thank you. And just my last question, you mentioned in your report that your continued search for seasonal summer staff, and I'm just wondering, have we had lots of applications for our summer staff positions? Or I know in other years we've not. So I was
depends on the position. I've actually got scheduled interviews this week to hopefully fill all the roles, but it has taken a little bit more time. Generally speaking, we're usually asking people right up until June if they're interested in jobs. It has become difficult over time, but I think we'll actually have our positions filled before our May long weekend this year, which would be ahead of the game.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Knopp.
Any other member of council? All right, all in favor of approve, or can I have a motion to accept the staff reports, I should say, first of all? Councillor Heenan, seconded by Councillor Blanchard. All in favor of approving the staff reports, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. The staff reports have been presented and accepted. We are now in the introduction, consideration, and passing of bylaws and motions. The first one is under planning and community development. It's Councillor Harland and Councillor Heenan's portfolio. I haven't jumped ahead to see which councillor it is, but whoever it is, feel free to commence. Harland wins. Okay. 66.
Thank you. This is reference number PCD 240402. And the subject is Amendment MP 20-09 to the Municipal Plan MP 20-01 and Z 22-08 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01. Charlie Bartlett, PID 15156425. Obtain views of PAC and call for public hearing of objection. And the background is as follows. The town of St. Andrews has received an application for rezoning PID 15156425 at 232 Bayview Drive for Charlie Bartlett. The applicant is proposing a retail fishmonger in the existing barn on site. Amendment steps for council. 1, public presentation May 6, 2024. 2, public hearing of objections. 3, obtain views of the PAC. 4 is first reading, 5 is second reading, and 6 is third and final reading. If council is supportive of the application moving through the process, the next steps are calling a public hearing of objections and obtain views of the Planning Advisory Commission. So the motion is as follows, that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews sets the date of Monday, June 3rd, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. for a public hearing of objections to Amendment MP 20-09 to the Town of St. Andrews Municipal Plan MP 20-01 and for Amendment Z 22-08 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01 for PID 15156425 for 232 Bayview Drive, Charlie Bartlett, as per the Community Planning Act, Section 111, and I so move.
Looking for a seconder. I've got Councillor Bennett. Discussion. Okay, all in favor of setting that hearing of objections, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That is everybody, so that has been carried. The next motion on this one.
The second motion is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews obtain views of the Planning Advisory Committee to Amendment MP 20-09 to the Town of St. Andrews Municipal Plan MP 20-01 and for Amendment Z 22-08 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01 for PID 15156425 for 232 Bayview Drive for Charlie Bartlett as per the Community Planning Act, Section 110, and I so move.
Seconder for that one. Councillor Heenan, discussion. Okay, I will call the question. All in favor of obtaining the views of the Planning Advisory Committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's everybody. So that one is behind us. Councillor Harlan, you have the next one as well, I believe.
I do. So this reference number is PCD 240302. And the subject is Amendment MP 20-08 to the Municipal Plan MP 20-01 and Z 22-06 to the zoning bylaw Lynn and David Mayo, first reading. And the background is as follows. The town of St. Andrews has received an application from Lynn and David Mayo at 222 Prince of Wales, PIDs 013239294 and 15097066, seeking a rezoning to the mixed-use zone to facilitate the development of a commercial building. The applicant wishes to demolish the existing garage and replace it with a 50 by 40-foot two-story building. The new building would house the We Fabric shop, as the current location is no longer suitable for their needs. Please see the attached staff report and copies of Amendment MP 20-07 and Z 22-06. Amendment bylaw process to date. Public presentation, April 2nd, 2024. Obtain views of the PAC, April 17th, 2024. Public hearing of objections, May 6th, 2024. First reading, second reading, third and final reading. With the information submitted from the Planning Advisory Committee and the public hearing of objections, if council is satisfied with the information provided, council can move to the first reading of MP 20-08 and Z 22-06. So the motion is as follows, that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for first reading to Amendment MP 20-08 to the Town of St. Andrews Municipal Plan MP 20-01 for PIDs 013239294 and 15097066 for 222 Prince of Wales Street for David and Lynn Mayo. And I so move.
Thank you. I'll be looking for a seconder for first reading. I've got Councillor Bennett. Any discussion on this one? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of going to first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
For first reading, I will read it by title. Bylaw number, excuse me, Z 22-06, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z 22-01, being the zoning bylaw for the town of St. Andrews, and read the first time the 6th day of May of 2024. All right. Just double check here. Okay, yep, we're good for the next one.
And the next motion is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for first reading to amendment to amendment Z 22-06 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01 for PIDs 013239294 and 15097066 for 222 Prince of Wales Street for Lynn and David Mayo, and I so move.
Perfect. Seconder for that one. Councillor Blanchard, discussion. Okay, all in favor of going to that reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Perfect, thank you. And I think I did it in opposite order now that is that correct? I think I read the first one. Does that matter as long as I read them both at the same meeting? Should be okay. So I'll read the other one now so both have been read. This is bylaw number MP 20-08, a bylaw to amend bylaw number MP 20-01, being the municipal plan bylaw for the town of St. Andrews. Again, that is read by title, and it is the 6th day of May 2024. So both have been read this meeting. All right, we're moving our way through here, and we are now to the text amendment, I believe, on page 83,
Right.
Which is Councillor Heenan.
Thank you, Worship and Council. Reference number is PCD 240401. Text amendment number Z 22-07 to the Town of St. Andrews zoning bylaw Z 22-01, first reading. At the March 18th, 2024 regular council meeting, staff brought forward two text amendments to the zoning bylaw. The amendments are around the issuing of special occasion permits under the Department of Public Safety and how this regulates to zoning for the LED sign for the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex and the creation of an integrated development zone. Please see the attached background documents for more details. Amendment by process is 1. Public hearing of objections May 6, 2024 tonight. 2. Obtain views of the PAC, which happened on April 17, 2024. First reading, second reading, third and final reading. If council is satisfied with the information obtained from the Planning Advisory Committee and the public hearing of objections, council can now move to the first reading. And the action is motion that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for the first reading to text amendment Z22-07 to the zoning bylaw Z22-01, and I so move.
Thank you. Seconder for that one. Okay, Councilor Harlan, all in favor of going to first reading for this one, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody that has been carried. This is bylaw number Z22-07, a bylaw to amend bylaws number Z22-01, being the zoning bylaw for the town of St. Andrews. And it was read the first time the 6th day of May. And I think we have one left under planning advisory, don't we? Yep. They're planning advisory planning. This one is on page 88.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council again. This is reference number PCD 240501. Amendments MP 20-02-03 to the secondary municipal plan MP 20-02 and Z 22-09 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01 for PIDs 151647118 and 013242844 for 742039 in B Limited. Background is the town of St. Andrews has received a secondary municipal plan and zoning bylaw amendment request for PIDs 151647118 and 013242844 for 742039 in B Limited, the Algonquin Resort. The applicant is seeking to move from tourist commercial zone to integrated development zone to carry out special purpose development on 2 different areas of land. The proposed plans would not fit within the tourist commercial zone and would not conform with the height and massing requirements of the secondary municipal plan. Please see the attached planning report from Mr. Alex Henderson, Director of Planning, for more details. The following is the bylaw process to follow. 1. Public presentation held tonight, May 6th. Public hearing of objections. Obtain the views of PAC. First reading, second reading, third and final reading. It is recommended that council start the process with obtaining views of the Planning Advisory Committee and setting the date for the public hearing of objections. And the motion that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews sets the date of Monday, June the 3rd, 2024 at 6:45 p.m. for the public hearing of objections to the amendment MP 20-02-03 to the Town of St. Andrews Secondary Municipal Plan MP 20-02 and for the amendment Z 22-09 to zoning bylaw Z 22-01 for PIDs 151647118 and 013242844 for 742039 in B Limited as per the Community Planning Act 111. And I so move this, Your Worship.
Thank you. A seconder for the hearing objections. We've got Deputy Mayor Akagi. Discussion. All in favor of setting the hearing? Oh, Councilor or Mr. Spear.
Thank you, Worship. I'm sorry. I'm going to put the planner, Mr. Gopen, on the spot a little bit, but I just want to ask, so when you were talking about this plan earlier tonight, you were concerned that the conceptual plans didn't quite fit. And so I'm just starting to wonder, is it easier to wait till we see the conceptual plans, or should we go? Because I know things can be adjusted after the fact, but I just worried that we're going to set this, not make timelines and have to have a second hearing of objections and possibly get it right the first time if we get a better conceptual plans.
So I think the mayor clarified this earlier with Alex, but I'll I'll come back to it. So because all of that's going to be attached to the resolution, the only part of the bylaw is a map change. So from a Community Planning Act point of view, there's no issue with making changes to those resolutions. You wouldn't have to have another public hearing. So again, planning wise, there's absolutely no issues with it. I don't know if there's other considerations that you would have, but
I think it's more that if it's a hearing of objections, you'd like the public to see exactly what is happening.
that might be the other
Otherwise,
considerations.
You come out and you give more design after the hearing of objections, and they're saying, well, we didn't know it looked like this, right? Like, I'm not saying that that's necessarily the case. It's just the visuals for such a large project for our community probably should be a little bit more detailed. Councilor Bennett?
Thank you, Your Worship. Also, under the bylaw process, should we not include a trip through to obtain views of the Heritage Committee?
Yeah, I think we could probably maybe even amend the next motion, which is the Planning Advisory Committee. I don't know if we need to amend or staff can just take it under advisement, but the next motion is send the views to the PAC, and I think we should discuss that as part of that motion, assuming the first goes through.
So, Your Worship, I'll say you shouldn't amend the next because they're both detailed in the Community Planning Act, so I wouldn't mix them. If you want to add a third motion, the staff, you got two members of the Heritage Board plus me here.
Okay.
We can send all the information over. So if you trust us, because there's no legal requirement anyway, but we'll tell them, we'll send the information over and say, please get us back as quickly as you can to us.
Let's add the third. We'll give them 30 days because I think their process kind of hints at 30 days, so it'd be a good early test. Okay, Councilor, we got some more comments. I guess we'll start with Mr. Gopen, and I'll go to you, Mr. Ware.
I guess just one, what was it, a point of clarification is that, and there's no reason not to send to the Heritage Committee, but a new build, as the way the Heritage bylaw is written currently, would not be subject to it. You may have, it's possible that Fort Tipperary, there's like view sheds and things like that that are important and are part of those character defining elements, but this type of file wouldn't be something that I mean, they may, if council asks, but it's not going to be something regulated by the bylaw.
Okay, this is attached to the existing building though. Does that still make it kind of modifications?
If that was, and I don't know off the top, I mean, it probably is a local historic place. So yeah, you know what? Yeah, it would be.
Okay, sounds good. Councilor Ware.
Yeah, Your Worship, I concur wholeheartedly with the transparency on the process. You know, the way this is worded, we're just basically putting changing the zoning, and then we have up until third reading to almost do as we please, and I don't think that's right to do that to the public.
Okay. All right, so I guess for next steps, council, we don't have a time frame of when they'll have more visuals, but in the same sense, when you post it, you need the information for hearing objections of council. I over to you. I don't know if you want to continue or if you want to table this until we get a timeline of motions. I know it's a huge project for them. I have no problem even having a special meeting. Oh, Mr. Henderson, I guess. Sorry, I did not see you up on the screen.
He just popped up, Your Worship.
No,
okay,
no problem.
Good catch,
Your
Mr.
Worship. Yeah, so one option is to postpone the hearing of objections, but you could still refer it to the Heritage Committee if you like at this time, and or PAC, because if there's going to be substantial changes, PAC could look at it again. So it could be essentially they could come back with a recommendation for the first round, and you could always refer to them again in the future. When you're ready to send it to the public. So that may be an option, is to just send it to Heritage Committee and to the PAC for a comment. And if there's anything regarding the proposal for the renderings or anything like that, I'll reach out to the applicant, the architect, and to see if they can provide more detail for when it goes to the PAC and Heritage Committee. So it'd be the same proposal as it is you're seeing now, but just maybe more renderings than the 3 that were included.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. I know that in the past we have said some, I guess you could say, changes back a couple of times. I think one actually went 4 times to PAC, if I recall, a long time ago. Not saying that we want to go through that process, but I think that's a good suggestion, Council. There's no harm in them. They may come back and say they need more visuals as well, though. All right, so I guess back to the, unless anyone else wants to weigh in, back to the original. I just, I guess, because I kind of heard it from Council. How many would like to, just to show quick hands, how many would like to table this motion? Okay, so let's have a motion for formality to table this. Councillor Neal, seconded by, ooh, that was close. I think Councillor Hurdle won that one. You felt pretty good about that, eh? All right, so we've got a motion and we've got a mover and a seconder to table this. All in favor of tabling, please signify by saying aye. Thank you. We're on to the second motion pertaining to this one.
Thank you again. The second motion is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews obtain views of the Planning Advisory Committee to Amendment MP 20-02-03 to the Town of St. Andrews Secondary Municipal Plan MP 20-02 and for the Amendment Z 22-09 to the Zoning Bylaw Z 22-01 for PIDs 15164-718 and 0132424284 for 742039 in B Limited as per the Community Planning Act Section 110. I so move, Your Worship.
Seconder for that motion, get on the floor. Okay, Councillor Neal. Discussion on this. Mr. Henderson did say that we can send it and then send it back if there's major modifications. Any discussion on this one, though? Okay, all in favor of sending this to the Planning Advisory Committee, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody that will go to the Planning Advisory Committee. And there was discussion on a third motion related to that Council of the Town of St. Andrews obtained views from the Heritage Committee of the Town of St. Andrews related to Amendment MP 20-0203 to the Town of St. Andrews Secondary Municipal Plan MP 20-02 and Amendment Z 22-09 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01 for PIDs 15164718 and 01324284 for 742039 NB Limited as per the. Oh, stop. Thank you. I'm like Ron Burgundy when I start reading, eh? Watched him last night, unfortunately. So I was doing good there too. Could I have a mover that or wants to repeat what I just said? No, Councillor Bennett, seconded by Deputy Mayor Akaji. Any more discussion on that one? All in favor of sending this to our Heritage Committee, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody that has been approved. Thank you, Council. We're now into Finance and Administration Committee, which is our very own Deputy Mayor Kate Akaji.
FA 240519. And it's the cancellation of regular council meeting for Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. And the background is this: due to staff vacations during the week of May 13th to the 17th, 2024, an agenda will not be produced for the Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. Regular council meeting with no agenda being produced. So council needs to formally cancel this meeting as per bylaw number 23-06, the procedural bylaw. So the motion is this: that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews cancels the Tuesday, May 21st, 2024 regular council meeting as per bylaw number 23-06, procedural bylaw. And I so move this, Your Worship.
Thank you. Seconder for that cancellation. Got Councillor Heenan. Discussion. All in favor of cancel. Oh, we're aware of why. I think we discussed.
Your Worship, I just, for council, just that meeting will be canceled, but the 27th, we might be looking with the auditor and stuff. So there might be a special meeting on that date. So just kind of loosely tentative that Monday after to keep it open for us. Thanks.
I just assume every Monday is council night.
We were
It's a
just
pleasant,
glad to
it's a
have a
pleasant
day off.
surprise when it's not.
That's right.
Okay, let's call the question. All in favor of the cancellation of that meeting? Tell it's, can you tell it's allergy season? Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That has been canceled. I'd rather talk about a movie. Next one, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. FA 240520 and its encroachment agreement for 61 Water Street, Alan and Leona Golding. So the background is this. Several years ago, a previous property owner at 61 Water Street attached a set of stairs to their deck that goes down to the beach, but encroaches on the town's street end. To the best of staff's knowledge, the town has never maintained the staircase. The current owners want permission to repair the staircase and have offered to maintain it as a public access off the street end. For a liability perspective, staff believes an encroachment agreement with the current property owners, Alan and Leona Golding, would be appropriate. So the motion is this, that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews instructs the Chief Administrator Officer to enter into an encroachment agreement with Alan and Leona Golding to allow access on the Adolphus Street end for 6 feet. And I so move this, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Seconder. Got Councillor Blanchard. Discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks to the Goldings.
Thank you for the Goldings. Yeah, there's certain areas in town, there is limited beach access. It's very nice.
Very nice of them.
For.
And my third one is FA 240521. And it's an update to policy P18-02, procurement. The background is this. With the recent addition of new staff members since 2021, updates are needed to the policy P18-02. Procurement for the town of St. Andrews, the following changes are recommended. Addition of a manager of recreation to section 7.3, department heads. And secondly, an update to grammar, spelling, and formatting. So the motion is this, that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews approves the following changes to the policy P18-02, procurement, addition of manager of recreation to section 7.3, department heads. And I so move this, Your Worship.
And looking for a second mover, Councillor Neal. Discussion on this one. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is everybody? That has been done. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We're now moving into Public Works and Public Safety Committee. Councillor Bennett and Councillor Neal. I believe it is Councillor Bennett's motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Reference number PWPS 240506, submitted by myself. Subject Canada Day road closure request for 2024. The background reads, as the town prepares for Canada Day events for 2024, staff are seeking the following road closures and Market Square closures. Market Square, closure as of 8 a.m. on Friday, June 28th, 2024 to 12 p.m. on Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. This will allow for setup and tear down time for stages and bleachers. The road closures. Monday, July 1st, 2024 from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the following roads. Water Street from Elizabeth Street to Frederick Street. King Street from Queen Street to the Wharf. This will allow for the setup space for the farmers market and other vendors. Queen Street from King Street to Frederick Street. This will help to ensure the safety of pedestrians moving between the green space in front of the Anglican Church to Water Street while the inflatable games are in operation. And the motion reads that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews approves the closures of Market Square from 8 a.m. on Friday, June 28, 2024 to 12 p.m. noon on Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024 for Canada Day events, and I so move.
Thank you very much. A seconder for that one. We've got Deputy Mayor Akaji. We're up for a discussion. Not entering debate. I'm just, the new one is the last one, right? Queen Street. So that's technically the next one. I guess it was in the background. So you're right. I'll hold off until the next one. We'll discuss that one further. Sorry for that, council. Any other comments?
Just,
Okay.
Your worship, just to let council know that the Mervyn, the recreation manager, did send out notice earlier in the year of potential dates that be closed, so the adjoining businesses are aware of these.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all in favor of this closure of Market Square, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody that has been approved. We're in the next motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, the next motion that the council of the town of St. Andrews approves the closure of the following streets from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. for Canada Day events. Water Street from Elizabeth Street to Frederick Street. King Street from Queen Street to the Market Wharf. Queen Street from King Street to Frederick Street. And I so move.
Thank you. I'll be looking for a seconder. Councillor Harland, a discussion. I guess I'll go back to my previous comment. The new one here is the Queen Street from King Street to Frederick Street. I guess my initial concern is it's such a congested day for traffic flow. I completely understand that something needs to be done. I actually had 2 or 3 different parents message me. Kids are running back and forth between Sheriff Andrews and the Anglican Church. It was a very dangerous area in their eyes. And I think that there was some merit to those comments with the fact you've got bouncy castles and activity going side by side. I just question if closing that street will not just add even more congested to an area that is already that particular day. Pretty crazy, actually. I almost wonder if there's not a more suitable location for the bouncy castles. I know the goal is to put them close to downtown as possible because that's where a lot of the activity is, but in the same sense, spreading activity out throughout the community is not a bad thing. I wonder if it couldn't be by the field, by the creative playground, and that's a family fun area. I wonder if Sir James Dunn Academy, we've done a lot of favors over the years for them looking after their field. Maybe it could be in there. It's just up. I just question what the traffic flow would look like when it's already bottlenecked there. And when you close that street, you're just forcing people. It's like a lot of closures to work through. Maybe I'm wrong. I just got a little, as you indicate in your staff report, because you certainly did in your staff report. I just question if that is the best spot for kids to even be playing the way that they are there. Council, over to you, Councillor Heenan.
Yes, Your Worship, I seem to think about the green in front of the courthouse as a possible, because we're trying to incorporate the courthouse back into the community. And I mean, it provides a large space. And I don't know why the bouncy castles couldn't go there.
I think wherever we decide
Yes.
to put them, I think if it's not the downtown, in fairness, I think we need to look at porta potties
Okay.
but that doesn't mean they can't be brought in there for 1 or 2 days. You can
Yeah.
put those in areas that are in behind, but I just question if closing a big portion of that street when it actually is the busiest street in town that day.
Yes.
We'll go to Councillor Neal, then I'll go to you, Mr. Spear.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Henderson. The main concern I had was actually if we close off that section of street, we're also eliminating a significant amount of parking spaces. Again, on our busiest day of the summer. So without adding any additional parking spaces, that is just going to congest things downtown even more.
Mr. Spear, and then we'll go
Yeah,
back to
I think I agree with you, Councillor Neal, but I think what we can do is direct all the farmers who usually park in the town parking lot to park along there, so they won't be going in and out all day. They'll get there before it was set up and stay there till the close down. So that was my thoughts on that. A secondary thing we might be able to do, power is a bit of an issue. They don't run on generators. They, work off of electrical. So we got to work on that. I can work with Mervyn on this. I feel if we set it too far, I know it doesn't seem far, but if we get it out of the downtown area where all the activities are, they'll probably be underutilized. I could be wrong, but maybe we can make an arrangement for like a crossing guard or something and do some type of barricading along the lawns to try to put everybody so they're kids just aren't going back and forth, but whatever council's desire is.
Any other member of council? Councillor Heenan.
Again, we don't want to have a problem with safety and put a damper on our July 1st. So whatever it takes to make sure that the children are safe is what bothers me. And I'm concerned, kids, we can have crosswalks, we can have crossing guards, but if they see Junior across the street and they want to see him, they run across. Like, this is just the way it is. And I'm just concerned. I don't like to see a damper come onto the July 1st celebrations as a something happening. So I think we as a council are responsible to take into effect whatever needs to be done to provide safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Neal.
Yes, thank you. Would there be any opportunity, Mr. Spear, to consolidate these bouncy castles, perhaps on the Anglican Church property, like maybe on either side of the church?
I'll have to look at, I might suggest an amendment in a minute, but one of them was a maze, if you remember from last year, and that thing was really long. The kids went racing through it, like, kind of like, just trying to think, that game where they all over a lake where the things spin. Anyway, there's a game show based on, anyway, these things are really long. One of them, it's an obstacle course that has a slide on it. So I'm not entirely sure if they will, but if maybe if you can just make an amendment that
just drop the third, the Queen Street for now, and come back
or say as needed, as directed by staff, meaning that you leave it open for now. We'll try to figure out a secondary plan, because Mervin's worked on this for a little bit and I don't like to make a decision for him when he's on vacation.
That's fair. Council, you have any concern about that amendment? Okay, I'll look for someone to amend to include at the end of Queen Street from King Street to Frederick Street as subject to, we'll just say CAO. Does that work for you, Mr. Spear?
It does.
A little more specific.
Yeah.
Councilor Heenan and Deputy Mayor Akagi have moved in second for that revision. All in favor of the revision, please signify by saying aye. Okay, that is everybody. We're back to the original motion now. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of now approving this motion, please signify by saying aye. Good compromise, Mr. Spear. That has been carried. We are moving into economic development, business culture, and that would be with Councillor Hurdle.
There we go. Struggling with technology myself, sorry. So this is in reference to EBC 240502, and the subject is the proclamation International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia for 2024. The background is the town of St. Andrews has received a request from Foundation Emergence regarding the support for the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia on May 17th, 2024. They've requested council support a proclamation and raise the pride flag on this day. Please see the attached letter and proclamation for more details. And the motion before us is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews supports the proclamation for the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia and to raise the pride flag on Friday, May 17th, 2024, and I so move.
And a seconder for that one. I've got Councillor Blanchard. Discussion? Councillor Hurdle.
I would just like to take a quick moment. I know this is a hard pivot from bouncy castles, but I would like to take a moment just to go on record to express my disappointment in the mayor of the community of Woodstock, who not only recently required the removal of pride flags from lampposts, but created a policy for that community to prevent them from moving forward, stating that flying the pride flag is politically motivated, as if supporting and celebrating our 2S LGBTQ plus neighbors, friends, and family could ever be considered politically motivated, and divisive, as if it's anything but divisive between people who are bigoted and people who are not. And I encourage other councillors and our mayor in not only supporting this motion, but also in sharing my disappointment in the mayor of Woodstock's decision and a plea for her to reconsider her position. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hurdle. Any other member of council? Okay, I will call the question then. All in favor of this proclamation and the raising of the flag, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, that is unanimous. This is the Town of St. Andrews resolution on the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia. Whereas the Canadian Charter of Human Rights and Freedoms recognizes that no one can be discriminated against based on sexual orientation or gender identity or expression. Whereas Canada is a society open to everyone, including lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans people. which is LGBTQ+, and to all other people who identify with sexual diversity and the multiplicity rather of gender identities and expressions. Whereas despite recent efforts towards greater inclusion of LGBTQ+ people, homophobia and transphobia are still present in society. Whereas May 17th is International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, is celebrated as such in many countries, and it is a result of a Quebec-based initiative promoted by Foundation Emergence starting in 2003. Whereas there is reason to support the efforts of Foundation Emergence in holding this day, now therefore be it resolved that the town of St. Andrews hereby proclaims May 17th, 2024 as the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia and recognizes this day as such. Now, therefore, I, Brad Henderson, Mayor of the town of St. Andrews, support this proclamation of International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, which will be signed today, May 6, 2024. In witness whereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of mayoralty of the town of St. Andrews to be affixed hereto. Thank you, council. Appreciate that. Next motion. I think we're going to Councillor Ware.
Thank you, Your Worship. Could I ask Councillor Hurdle to do this motion? I'll explain when we discuss the motion.
I think Councillor Hurdle did a wonderful job reading in the past, so I think we'll pass it over to him.
I usually take a couple of days to prepare, so I got to work up to it, right?
You can do it.
I got big shoes to fill, Councillor Weir, so hopefully I do you a service here. So this is in reference to EBC 240501, and the subject is the resignation and appointment of member to the Bayside Port Corporation. And the background is the town of St. Andrews has received a resignation letter from Mr. William Bill Young as the municipal representative for the town of St. Stephen, St. Andrews, Village of Macadam, and Eastern Charlotte on the Bayside Port Corporation. Please see the attached letter for details. Council needs a motion to accept the resignation of Mr. Young from the position. The letter provided also outlines the recommended appointment of Mr. David Archambault on the Bayside Port Corporation. Mr. Archambault has recently retired from his accounting position with A&R. If council is accepting of the nominee, a motion to accept Mr. Archambault for the position of municipal representative on the Bayside Port Corporation is needed. So the first motion before us is that the council of the town of St. Andrews accepts the resignation of Mr. William Young as the municipal representative on the Bayside Port Corporation, effective on or before September 30th, 2024, and I so move.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hurdle. Seconder on that one would be Councillor Bennett. We are open to discussion. I feel like Councillor Ware is going to enter discussion. I feel it.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I just wanted to give a bit of background on the Bayside Port Corporation and why I was not comfortable making the motion. Firstly, Bill Young was an ex-employee. He's been on the board since day one. In the initial years, served as treasurer and was very active in the management committee, which no longer exists at the port, but we had one back then. So the other thing is the municipalities, the 4 municipalities own 100 of the 1,100 shares that's outstanding. So they do own 9.09% of the port. The municipalities paid $25 each for their 25 shares. The remaining 10 shareholders paid $25 plus were forced to loan, or not forced, agreed to loan $70,000 to the port, which remains outstanding. So there's a lot of history there. The other reason is there is one other besides the municipal shareholders that still remains a shareholder of the port. And that's a company called Atlantic Coast Materials. They were the founders of the quarry, and they still own 50% of the quarry, which means they own approximately 25% of the port. So, and Mr. Waterman happens to be a personal friend and a personal client, or I'm his representative in Canada. So I'm in a little awkward position. So it has sort of been kept, I don't think it's been kept secret, but it's not well known that he still is involved as a 25% shareholder of the private investors, and intends to maintain his position in the port, and I guess intends to keep me as his representative in Canada. So he was in Montana, now he's in South Carolina, but he gets around. So that's the reason I was uncomfortable making the motion. I don't think I have conflict of interest, but I am in the gray area.
Only you can declare the conflict of interest as per the Municipalities Act, so we're off the hook for it.
And as far as the gentleman replacing him, I know he's been working 3 days a week at the accounting firm. I don't know when he officially becomes retired, but I'm also privy to the fact that almost all the shareholders down there are clients of the accounting firm. So I don't know where that leaves him. Again, that's not my problem, conflict of interest. By September 30th, it'll certainly be resolved without any doubt. So that's just my bit of background information and why I asked Councillor Hurdle to do the motion.
I appreciate that, Councillor Ware. I was actually going to lean on you just for a little bit of clarity on this one that I wanted to. So whenever you have kind of a new representative, it also creates new opportunity. And one of the gaps I find is we are shareholders of the port. However, I don't see a consistent reporting process where we're getting information back on what is being discussed at any meetings. I don't see an opportunity to say, hey, this was a meeting, this is a summary. As a shareholder, I don't regularly get that. And even just a once a year come in, make a presentation, talk about this is what's upcoming at the port. I find that although we have a representative in the share, I see why it's kind of split up and everything like that. I wouldn't consider us majority shareholders. I just feel like there's a process gap here with getting information to the municipality. So I'm almost wondering, maybe it's not pertaining to this motion, but if we do pass this, if Mr. Archibald could come in and maybe talk to us about establishing some type of, it doesn't have to be every week, it doesn't have to be every month, but some type of reporting relationship so we actually know what is being discussed and what's upcoming. And technically speaking, if he's representing the 4 municipalities, the 4 municipalities should be giving feedback on how we would like him to potentially vote on some motions that are before him. So I'm very appreciative of it. I just, to be honest, Mr. Young probably did a great job. I just unfortunately didn't see enough to be able to agree with you, I guess is my point. So I really want to lean on you to give me some feedback on that.
When it first started out, I think Bill went to the municipalities the first 2 years at the end of the year when the financial statements were prepared and gave a brief presentation. Some of the private shareholders, private industry, some of them are public companies like Logistec Stevedoring is listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. They didn't like all the information going out in public. And maybe Bill got tired of going around to 4 municipalities once a year and giving a report. I don't know. I was the auditor back then, so I know the financial statements were being done and on a timely basis and everything. So, but of the group that were involved when the port was founded, the work started in 97, culminated on June 18th, 1999. So 25th anniversary coming up. I'm interested to see if they do anything. I don't go to the port property. Another gentleman there that I just avoid. So
okay.
Anyway,
it may be even opportunity maybe at the RSC level where at least the 4 communities have at least a at least a biannual meeting to find out what's good. There, we'll take that offline. It's kind of another point, but it's something I wanted to bring up with this motion that I'm sure Mr. Young did a good job. It's just I don't actually know what he actually did, to be completely honest with you. And I'll take it a step further that I spent 5 years as deputy mayor of this community, didn't even know the town of St. Andrews owned shares at the wharf. Or at the port rather. And Mr. Spear, you were here even longer, and I don't think you were aware as CAO. So there's a gap that we have to, and now that Bayside is part of our greater community, we want to make sure that the voice of Bayside is at that table just as much as anyone, because it's in your backyard, right? So we'll take that offline, but I think there's an opportunity with the change to maybe have some type of structure to keep us in the loop. I'm not saying I've got any concerns. I'm just saying I'd like to know.
Well, and I'll add to that. Bill sort of stopped doing it when I became the chief operating officer. I guess he assumed that maybe I would go around and do it. But that was when the sort of change happened in 2008. But the only people that are left from the original group is myself and the owner of Atlantic Coast Materials, Mr. Waterman. And he is still very interested in the port. He's 77 years old, but he's like me, he's a spring chicken. So
yeah, does not consider himself a senior.
That's exactly right.
Councillor Harlan.
So my question again is a bit about process. Given what you've said about not knowing that we even had shares in the port while you were deputy mayor, I just want to clarify. So Mr. Young is recommending Mr. Archambault. Is that correct, based on this letter?
Well, the board in general is recommending Mr. Archambault, so they're all aware of him.
Okay, so the board...
There's a certain skill set I think they're looking for to fill gaps. So instead of just taking somebody out of the community that might have an interest but not the skills to be part of this rather complex organization, they found someone with an interest and a background that would suffice.
Okay.
But it is, you know, the 4 communities didn't go look for Mr. Archambault. He was advised by the board that he.
We're really just being asked to rubber stamp, because normally I think our process is, if we are appointing anybody to committees, we get resumes, we have an opportunity to understand a person's background. I really feel like I don't know what I'm voting on, because I really don't have information other than this is the gentleman that's being recommended.
The complexity is, though, that there's 4 municipalities that have what representatives. So it's, I don't know what we do, to be honest. Have everyone volunteer, then take them to an MMA ring.
It'd have to be a call between all 4 communities at the same time, and then you'd have to have a panel that reviews them.
And it's fine. I think it just needs to be transparent that this is really, it's a bit of a rubber stamp in terms of what we're being asked to do, because I really don't feel like I'm able to make an informed decision on this, except that it's being recommended by the board.
I think the other thing that's unusual, Councillor Harlan, about this is there's no time frame. It's just kind of, there you go.
Well,
so
just remember too, council, this is a private entity, not, I guess for whatever reason, I think it was the DFO, Councillor Ware can speak on it better of us, but when they made the transition from a public wharf to a private, I think one of the things that they asked was that the municipalities be given a share or enough share in a representative without really thinking it through, because it is a very minor share, 9%. But nonetheless, you know, I don't disagree with you saying, Councillor Harlan, but it's a weird arrangement nonetheless.
I'll comment on that. Most of you wouldn't remember Fred Nicholson. He used to be the town solicitor. He and Mel Turner. Anyway, Fred and I led the charge to get the shares for the municipalities, because we felt that it was a business that required local involvement, because all the shareholders are many from out of the country, some are from Europe, they're from everywhere. And
not to pump your tires, but that was a very, very good move to have some local representation there. So thank you for that. Any other questions or comments from councillors? All right, then I will call the question. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That's okay. That's everybody. That has been carried. All right. We are now getting into Recreation and Environment Committee. Oh,
point
the
of
second
order that the
part.
second
Sorry, there's
motion-
second part to that one. Go ahead.
Councilor, would you like to read the second part? Are you okay with me carrying on? Okay. Second motion before us is that the council of the town of St. Andrews appoints Mr. David Archambault as the municipal representative on the Bayside Port Corporation effective on or before September 30th, 2024, and I so move.
Thank you, seconder. Councillor Heenan, I feel like we've talked about this one, but I will ask the question for process. Any questions or comments on this? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. And no one is opposed, so that has been carried as well. Now we will go on to Recreation and Environment Committee. Over to Councillor Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Worship. So RE 240503, subject is Residential Solid Waste Collection Amendment. And the background is as follows. On November 22nd, 2023, Council authorized an extension of the existing household garbage collection agreement with Southern Sanitation within the previous town limits, which included the current 4-week collection run of 3 weeks of solid waste and 1 week of recycling. On May 1st, 2024, Circular Materials was contracted by the provincial government to begin the collection, sorting, and shipping of recyclable products throughout New Brunswick. To maintain the same collection routine, we will continue with the 3-in-1 collection schedule. However, Circular Materials will be paying for the recycling week. The hauler, Southern Sanitation, has agreed to a reduction in our costs to reflect this. And the motion before council is that the council of the town of St. Andrews moves that from May 1st to December 31st of 2024, Southern Sanitation's monthly collection fee will be reduced to $6,753.21 per month, and I so move.
Thank you. I will be looking for a seconder for that one. Councillor Heenan, discussion. Okay. There's a part B to that, but we won't get into it today because it's already related to part A. All in favor of this, please signify by saying aye. That has been carried. Thank you, council. We have nothing under new business, so that'll take us to question period. Mr. Spear, I guess we'll start to see if anyone is online. I think it'd have to be Mr. Spear. He's the one that's...
Yeah, Mr. Spear is, and the only one online is Mr. Andrew Bates. Telegraph here. Your Worship, I did receive a letter online. I am curious if it is not regarding tonight's agenda, but are you willing to hear it?
It's not related to the agenda. No.
Not tonight's agenda. Okay, thank you.
No, not in tonight's agenda. No, the process has been very consistent with everybody that it does have to pertain to tonight's agenda. However, the individual would like to make a presentation to council or to ask a question, they can submit so by writing.
Mr. I think it's Andrew Bates. If you have a question, can you raise your hand and I'll upgrade you to talk to council?
All right. Anything submitted online to you, Mr. Knopper, I guess would be the email that we normally use.
Just the question that doesn't pertain to tonight's agenda.
Thank you very much. And anyone in the audience this evening have any questions related to tonight's agenda? All right. Well, thank you both for being here. You're the last two. We had a few others, but the last two standing. We appreciate you being here. We will now go to Councillor Deputy Mayor's comments. Councillors, any comments? I've got a few going on. Let's go. Let's work our way this way. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the council's decision on supporting the gas tax money being spent on Dock Road and Shamcook. That work started this morning and will be finished by tomorrow at lunch. The upgrades to the road are fantastic, but especially I'd like to acknowledge the work of the CAO, the town workers, the town works department. Not only is the contractor out there working, but something I have not seen yet. I saw Red Town trucks driving down the glebe, hauling waste soil and stuff. And obviously by their input, it made the money go a lot further, and it was done in a very timely manner. So I certainly greatly appreciate the support from everybody to get this project accomplished, especially in a timely manner in time for the busy summer days along Dock Road and Cunningham Beach. Thank you for that, everybody. The other thing I'd like to is a little bit more personal.
Can talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs?
No, but they're due for it next year to win the cup.
Put that on record.
I'm very pleased. Just on a very personal note, my daughter Christina Bennett is convocating from university next week. She's graduating with not one but 2 degrees. So Wednesday the 15th, she'll graduate with a degree in forestry and environmental management. So we're very, very proud of her for her effort. As well as one of her friends who is somewhat closely related here to St. Andrews, Nathan Benner. He is graduating as well with the same 2 degrees. Nathan has spent the last 4 or 5 summers working or living here in town while working in St. George with Canada Food Inspection Agency. And he'll be moving here to town on a full-time basis with work starting full-time with Canada Food Inspection Agency. So if you see Nathan around town, please congratulate him. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Proud dad moment, to say the least.
Very much so. Thank you.
I saw Councillor Harlan's hand.
I just wanted to do 2 shout outs. The spring newsletter, it was very comprehensive. It was wonderful. So thank you to the town staff. I'm sure it took lots of collective energy to get that out. And the other one is, again, to promote our Public Works Department for the renovations that they did on the Youth Center kitchen. Fantastic. We are so fortunate to have such a skilled, dedicated Public Works Department. They've installed some new renos and upgrades to the Youth Center, which will benefit across our populations. And I'm very appreciative of that. So thanks.
Thank you. I think Nancy Cooper, who takes the lead on the newsletter, would probably tell you that getting the write-up from Mr. Spear and myself is the most challenging part of the newsletter. Yeah, I own it. I own it. Councillor Enid, do you have something you want to say? I saw your hand.
Just 2 quick references, and they both are Public Works as well. First off, I've gotten tons of emails about the painted picnic tables, and they look super. And I'd like to say a big thank you. And secondly, 2 of my friends were involved this week with a bad water leak, and they had nothing but praise for our town staff and the diligent and the amount of work that they did and the pleasantry of them all. And so I want to say a big thank you as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other member of council? Go to you last up there. Yeah. No other members? Deputy Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Your Worship and Council. I want to start off with MMIWG. Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. Sunday was the day, May the 5th, and it's red dress. You would have noticed it, and I thank Neighborhood Works that I know that you have a lot to do with, Councillor Hurdle. They had a dress hanging in the trees, and people were saying, why is the dress hanging in the trees? And I explained the red dress is what is recognized as the symbol for MMIWG. So I'm very honored to have seen that, and a lot of people announced it, which was great, and Province did a walk and everything near the Lieutenant Governor's house. So it was nice. And the other thing I have is the mayor's son. I met at the Heritage Fair because the mayor allowed me to go to the Heritage Fair May 2nd, and he took a lot of awards as well as SJDA did. Anglophone School District South asked me to stay and present some awards. And I was very honored to do so for my Indigenous background. But I said to them, I'm wearing today my deputy mayor's hat because the mayor is away. Needless to say that your son Hunter was cute because one of the awards that he got, the first thing he said was, "My, that's a big, trophy." And I think it was as big as he was, but he carried it well and he did you very proud, Your Worship. He was excellent and the projects were excellent. And I really thank the opportunity for being there to see them, to meet Mr. Thomas for Black History. I was just amazed because he was a friend of Carmen Eldridge's, and I got to meet him again and talk to him. So I was very honored to be there on behalf of the town, but also for my background. Because I have something that was given to me and I want to share it with you. Can I step out front?
You're the deputy mayor. You can go as you please.
No, I get no respect, you know. I have to go all the way around. Short. But I would like to thank the United Church. I do a lot of blanket exercises for all schools and for people. And so, okay, and so the United Church, along with the Fabric Beautiful, presented myself with this. This is a medicine wheel blanket, which I will use in every one of my continuing on with my blanket exercises or any ceremony that I'm able to use it at. And I want to thank the Wee Fabric Shop because they had a lot to do with the quilting. That's Lee Mayo and Lee Smith Powell, who had a lot with her background because she's Indigenous, and she put a lot of the features in it that represent a lot for healing. This is the medicine wheel, traditional medicine wheel, except for she added the blue color, the turquoise color. That is Peskotomuhkati, the healing color for that nation. So I was very honored because it is my favorite color. But she added the feathers, and someone said, well, they're black. But the reason they are black is because you want to remember residential schools, everything. So I was trying to take it away from them. So to me, it was a great honor, almost as good as my Order of New Brunswick that I received. But this, to receive it from our community to me was really a true honor for me. And I thank you because you're the head of the council. I get to represent you in a lot of Indigenous things, and I'm very honored to do that. And I was at Anglophone School District South, and the kids didn't recognize me for being the deputy mayor, although I was wearing my deputy mayor thing. They recognized me for my Indigenous work in all the schools that I'm in. So I was very honored to be doing that, but I was also honored to be representing you at the Anglophone School District South Heritage Fair, and very honored to see a lot of my friends and to meet people that I haven't seen for a while. So I wanted to thank you very much. I wanted to thank the United Church because I gave them the money from their workshop. I wouldn't take any money because I thought they would make me this blanket, and it was supposed to be given to me March 3rd, and it was given to me just last weekend, but it was very appropriate to receive this just before the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, because to me that's an honor. I have a lot of relatives that went missing, and I also have a lot of friends that went missing, and this means a lot to me. But to be given it to me by the community, by the church, the United Church, and by my friends, I'm very honored. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks for everything.
No, thank you very much for that, Deputy Mayor. I will say that having you as a member of this council certainly helps educate me personally on the culture, and you're always a great advocate for that. And I think it's an honor to be maybe Deputy Mayor, but I think the students recognizing you for all the work that you do, I think that that's probably more important at the end of the day. So thank you again for all that you do. I will skip myself because the Boston Bruins do play tonight. I do thank you for the acknowledgement of Hunter. He did do very well at the Regional Heritage Fair, so he'll be happy to hear his voice come from you versus me. So, council, I will at this particular time be looking to go to closed session. But before I do, we have hit the 2.5-hour mark, which requires me, I think, by motion to extend the meeting. So could I have a mover to extend the meeting just to go to closed session for, I believe, just one item this evening? Is that correct, Mr. Spear? 1.5. Got Councillor Harlan. I think I saw your hand today, or did I not? Yeah, Deputy Mayor Akaji has seconded. All in favor of extending the meeting, please signify by saying aye. That's been done. So I'll be looking at 9:06 p.m. to go to closed session as per, I'll call it Local Governance Act Section 68(1)(c), information that could cause financial loss or gain to a person or the local government or could jeopardize negotiations leading to an agreement or contract. I'll need a mover for that. I've got Councillor Keenan, seconder, Councillor Hurdle. All in favor of going to closed session? We'll be in closed session. Thank you very much. Appreciate CHCO and Mr. Lyons for attending tonight. Go out and then at 9:54 p.m. I'll be looking for a motion to come out of closed session. Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Heenan. Discussion on coming out of closed? Are you sure? Okay, all in favor of coming out of closed, please signify by saying aye. Motion to adjourn, Deputy Mayor Akaji, seconded by Councillor Blanchard, won that one. All in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Thank you, council. That was fun.
And that was a 0.5.
You need these back because we're closed session.